Is the Cybertruck's edgy Star Wars design going to make it a huge hit? It's certainly a big marketing story, but at $70,000 to $80,000 a throw, that's a pretty small market unless they can lower prices. And they did it with the Model 3, they did it with the Y. I have a feeling over the next 2 years, if they can bring this thing down to $50,000, it's going to be a huge deal for the company.
Oh, they will. Right now, the rear-wheel drive Cybertruck is at $60,000, and over time, Tesla will get the price down to $50,000, eating away at the F-150's US market share. Battery prices are down 14% this year and expected to drop another 40% by 2025. And the most annoying part about all of this highly priced Cybertruck nonsense is that when Tesla does drop the price to $50,000 a year or two from now, everyone's going to be freaking out that they're cutting prices. Guys, Tesla literally listed the Cybertruck only $2,000 more than the average price of a new truck in America, which is $59,000. Cybertruck came in at $61,000, and now you have Adam Jonas of Morgan Stanley calling to back up the Cybertruck. He calls it an art truck, and that by 2025 the Cybertruck will account for closer to 0% of profit, claiming that the Cybertruck is just a moonshot project intended for the team to tackle audacious, more difficult projects for improving their more mainstream products. He goes on to say that Morgan Stanley believes Tesla will continue to produce Cybertrucks, but only at very scarce levels as they continue to focus on more profitable products over time. It just feels like every time Tesla goes to ramp a new vehicle, Wall Street expresses their disbelief, and Musk and his team prove them wrong. I see no reason the Cybertruck is not going to be a huge success. Do you really think Elon and Franz would design a vehicle that wasn't going to be profitable? They took out the paint shop. Boom, cost and savings. They switched to a 48-volt architecture. Boom, cost and savings. And guys, I can't just say these things and move on. So let's understand why the 48-volt architecture saves time and money. So these photos side by side, an ICE vehicle next to the Cybertruck, just tells the entire story. He says, you know how cars have these huge wiring harnesses? That's because each component needs its own set of wires connected to the central electric control units in order to function. Every speaker is connected, every switch, every sensor, every actuator, every button, it all needs to be wired all throughout, all on different wires. But Tesla threw out that entire system for Cybertruck. Instead, they're running gigabit Ethernet cabling with a 48-volt power and data bus to every component all on the same cable. Instead of running one wiring harness to the driver door speaker and another one to the motor, another one on this and that, they can daisy chain them together on the same self-contained cable interface. Your computer could connect to your door handle using the same wire that's already been through your speaker, window, lights, and steering wheel. Each of those devices listen to the continuous stream of data for a command relative to its operation. And guys, this is only possible on a 48-volt system because you don't get enough currency on a 12-volt system. By doing this, Tesla was able to reduce the total wiring in the Cybertruck by 77% using half the copper. Don't sleep on Tesla. So you might ask why OEMs haven't already done this, and Larry Goldberg is going to help us understand. He says it's for the same reason that no OEM has elected to adopt the 48-volt system vehicle-wide, and it's because no major Tier 1 suppliers provide a complete 48-volt solution, while a huge number of suppliers have 12-volt components already on their shelves. The auto industry's ungainly supply chain structure dictates that OEMs rely upon Tier 1 suppliers to design and provide their electrical systems. Absent a component supplier developing a comprehensive solution that is most competitive, no OEM is likely to make the first move. The flip side of that coin is that without demand from OEMs, no Tier 1 supplier is likely to develop a comprehensive solution either. And so goes the dysfunctional dance of auto supply chain, where both sides have zero incentive to innovate other than by baby steps. Until Tesla. With the Cybertruck, no fearless leader has emerged to force the issue despite there being billions of dollars of savings to be had from the transition to 12-volt to 48-volt. The auto industry has been unable to make the transition, yet the savings only begin here, beyond the 48-volt system, and somewhat because of it, there is an opportunity to rethink the entire electric architecture of the vehicle, and that is exactly what Tesla has done. So as it stands, suppliers really have a stranglehold on electric architecture in ICE vehicles. Larry writes, as Tier 1 suppliers have been proliferated to become the source of every subsystem and component in the modern vehicle, many of these individual components are designed to have their own electronic control units, but each unit is programmed separately by each vendor. So things get really complicated. And guys, I'm not an electrical engineer, but in a traditional ICE system, I count 15 electronic control units in this photo. But if we scroll down to Tesla's system, I'm counting 10 electronic control units here. Going back to the Model S and progressing to Cybertruck, they have replaced all of the supplier ECUs with those that are programmed and supported by Tesla and connected by Ethernet. Here's a photo of just one of the wiring harnesses involved in a nice vehicle. Tesla has removed a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of weight. And guys, on the Cybertruck delivery day, Elon did something crazy. He touted the 48-volt system, the Ethernet network, and the zonal electronic control units. But he also sent a pamphlet to OEM CEOs entitled, "How to Design a 48-Volt Vehicle," with the subtitle, "Do we really have to do your homework for you?" I'm not sure that's the best way to build a relationship with OEMs, Larry writes. But it's classic Elon trolling the OEMs for being so tied down to their suppliers or just being so unwilling to innovate. So big thanks to Larry Goldberg and the Cybertruck guy for helping us understand why the 48-volt architecture is the new way forward.
The Ford F-150 is an astonishing story. It's the best-selling vehicle in the United States 41 years in a row. You got to hand it to Ford. But the Cybertruck has 2 million pre-orders. I think you're right. I think at least half go in, maybe 2/3. But if they just sell 500,000 vehicles, and I'm guessing it won't be more than 50,000 next year, so I don't think yesterday was that transformative. But if they come back into 150,000 in 2025, that's going to cut into Ford's market share a lot. So if they can get the price down, and if they can take as little as 20% of that market from Ford and Rivian, that's tough news for Ford, phenomenal news from Tesla. It all comes down to, can Tesla do it again in terms of keeping the price down? I think they will. Battery prices are dropping. They're moving faster than nearly anybody. That'll be the great truck smackdown.
I think we already saw the great truck smackdown, and it was Cybertruck outpulling a Ford F-350 diesel. Both these trucks were tasked with pulling 40,000 pounds, and Cybertruck pulled it farther. Last year, Ford sold 640,000 F-150s, and just a few years from now, Cybertruck could cut that in half. Ford says they lost $1.7 billion during the UAW strikes, and they've got more losses coming.
There's about to be a new big three in town, and there's a lot of hemming and hawing out there, and EVs are stacking up on dealer lots. Nonsense. U.S. EV sales were up 49% Q3 over Q3, and that number is getting bigger. EV sales were up globally 35% this year. And what you really have is a tale of two cities. The legacy makers, Ford, GM, Toyota, are seriously behind, slow to the punch, and losing staggering amounts on each car. Ford lost $36,000 on every EV it sold in Q3. That's not good. At the same time, Tesla grew 35% year over year. Koreans, Hyundai and Kia growing 30% year over year, and BYD growing an astonishing 75%. So the old big three may be out the window, about to be replaced by the Koreans, Tesla, and BYD and the other Chinese makers. Punchline, everybody's going electric. Here are the numbers. Last year, 10.5 million EVs were sold globally. That's 14% of all cars sold in the world. This year, it's going to be darn close to 20%. Next year, in the 30s, everyone's going electric.
I'm sorry, guys, but consumers are going to gravitate to what's better and to what's cheaper. And in China, India, and Europe right now, that's what's going on. EVs are better and cheaper, and they're expected to be so as well in the US next year. And what makes all of this so crazy is we still haven't even gotten the mass market EV from Tesla yet. Guys, 5 or 6 years from now, 80% of all Tesla's vehicles sold could be this $25,000 car. It's really going to be the iPhone product because it will be a no-brainer for every American consumer.
I was under the impression that demand for EVs had sort of been a little rocky of late. You know, they were hot, then they were not, and people, for example, one guy said he drove his F-150 across country and left it halfway across the trip because he was so aggravated with it. You know, it takes time to acclimate to something new like this.
Well, the numbers are the numbers. Again, up 49% this year. And look, what's going on? This is not magic, and it's not because people have bleeding green hearts. It's for the simple reason the costs are going down. Tesla reduced costs 25% this year. That is astonishing. Battery prices down 14% this year alone. We expect them to be down another 40% by 2025. That's just in 2 years. As prices continue to drop, sales go up. And again, right now, people say, oh, are people really going to buy electric cars? The number one selling car worldwide today is an American made EV, the Tesla Model Y. So this is happening. And the fact that every year, and here's where the Biden stimulus really makes a huge difference, more charging stations are out there now, over 100,000 places you can charge. Range anxiety is going away. Cars that used to have 200 miles of range now have 300 to 400, and costs are going down. What's not to like about that? And you can reduce servicing costs three-quarters to boot. So I think it's no surprise more and more manufacturers are going electric all the time. It's not you're not putting that one back in the bottle.
Well, Ford and GM have been trying to put it back in the bottle as of late as they've scaled back on their EV ambitions. Well, I wouldn't do that if I was them because the EV tax credit sounds like it's going to get cut in half in the new year, which means they're going to lose an additional $3,700 on each electric vehicle sold. And pair that with the fact that Tesla is now also eating into the huge ICE profits. Look at this comparison between the Cybertruck and the Ford Raptor. The Raptor is likely Ford's highest margin vehicle, and Cybertruck beats it badly.
So Ford said it lost $1.7 billion in profit from the UAW strike. There has been talk and some reports of some workers at Tesla striking, at least in one country. But Tesla, Toyota, some of the others, I think they're working without unions. And, Elon Musk does his best to sort of give stock options and actually raise wages so that the workers do feel appreciated. Is this something that you see as a potential real headwind, maybe even in 2024, where he might see a Tesla strike?
Look, I think American automakers in general have two headwinds. One, they've got rising labor costs. And two, they have a legacy 100-year built-out dealer network. Tesla doesn't have to worry about those things as much. They've got the most roboticized manufacturing lines in the world, and they don't have to worry about an external dealer network with conflicted interests. So you really have as a battle here between the Chinese makers like BYD and SAIC that will become household names that have a huge advantage with lower cost labor and lower cost batteries. And you've got Tesla that's been the global leader in streamlined manufacturing and in software, and this over-the-air software that drops literally as much as $200, $300, $400, $500 of pure profit to every car sold annually. That gives Tesla a big edge. So that's why Tesla and the Chinese are showing up on top. There's no mystery here. The American automakers are going to have to figure out how to fix for that.
Well, good luck, because Ford just said the new UAW deal is going to cost them $8.8 billion, while GM said the new deals could cost them $9.3 billion. But they seem to think they're okay because they just announced a $10 billion share buyback and raised their dividend. To me, that's the ultimate sign that these companies do not care about EVs and they are just going to sit back and puff their cigars until the bitter end.
So Tesla today's at 238. Where do you think that's headed? And BYD, is that a stock you would buy?
So I think you have to look at BYD, fastest growing auto company in the world, extremely profitable. They're going to challenge Tesla in Q1 and maybe even in Q4 for who's selling the most units. Tesla's going to be at roughly 1.8 million. BYD is going to be right there with them. And I will tell you right now, BYD is going to be a little more profitable. But Tesla's ready to strike back at BYD, bringing a $25,000 car to market in the next 24-ish months. That's going to be powerful for Tesla. And then BYD is going to have to deal with the issue that there are IoT devices in every Chinese car they sell. A lot of people are not going to be as comfortable with that. So a lot of intervening factors. It's going to be a fascinating one to watch on Vine, but there is a new big three in town, and investors need to get their heads around that.
So the data that I'm getting on BYD is far different than what Steve Wesley is reporting here. And AJ, he's my BYD guy. He's a former analyst at Goldman Sachs, and he does some great analysis on BYD. He writes under key observations that Tesla addresses a much higher segment of the market with a significantly higher price point. Tesla doesn't have their mass market EV yet. The vast majority of BYD's sales come from a much lower segment of the market. What often escapes the attention of those fixed solely on vehicle sales miss the pivotal distinction between BYD and Tesla. It's imperative to recognize that while Tesla may sell fewer vehicles than BYD, its profitability is several times greater, a point I've consistently highlighted in previous reports. And here's one of those reports. AJ writes that Tesla makes an estimated 22 times more per EV sold than BYD. $3,000 per EV sold for Tesla, $136 per EV sold for BYD. And guys, his analysis is extremely detailed, so I'm not going to go into it in this video, but those are the crunch of the numbers, 3,000 to 100. So I'll put this link in the description if you guys want to investigate. I mean, Tesla and BYD both began in 2003, and since inception, Tesla has generated 4.5 times more cash than BYD per vehicle sold. BYD's lifetime total free cash flow and vehicles sold amount to $3.7 billion and almost 9 million vehicles. Tesla's lifetime total free cash flow and vehicles sold amount to $9.5 billion and 5 million vehicles. I just can't wait to see how the $25,000 car changes these numbers against BYD. I've been thinking a lot about the $25,000 car since the Cybertruck came out, as I feel like all the new tech we've seen inside the Cybertruck will also be in the $25,000 car. So I really think that little vehicle is just going to be the most successful product of all time. So I can't wait to dive into that more in the future. So make sure you guys are subscribed, and thank you for watching and have a good day.